You're listening to the Transform Your Nutrition podcast with your hosts, Rebecca Heald and Jeff Ash. Our purpose is to help individuals and families transform their relationships with food and develop healthy bodies, minds, and attitudes, all without restriction, guilt, or shame. All right, so we are here for another episode of the Transform Your Nutrition podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, well, afternoon.
Yes.
Not bad. It's been a busy day so far, and still a few more meetings to go after this. So, but all good because it's Friday, which means it's almost the weekend.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. It's been a bit of a long week for myself as well, so it's always good to have that downtime.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Get in some maybe some fun physical activity, something like that.
Yes.
Which is a nice little transition into our topic for today.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to be getting out and moving the old body tomorrow, doing some walking with the kids.
Yeah, that's always great. So yes, our topic for today is physical activity. So we were going to talk about different forms of activity, exercise, kind of what we both enjoy doing for ourselves and what we find works well with clients and how we approach that and all of that good stuff. Because this is an important topic to talk about because, in the fitness world, it covers the spectrum. It covers the spectrum of kind of what we take, which I would say would be a bit more of a gentle approach to physical activity and exercise. And then you have, of course, the other extremes, which is, go big or go home and that kind of a thing. And how do we figure out what's the best approach for ourselves, maybe for another person who we're giving advice to and that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So what is your general approach to physical activity in your own life?
Yeah, now, again, it's a bit like with diet, our diets. And I don't mean diet as in restriction of fad diets. I mean your diet in the purest sense of the term, as in the way that you eat. Okay. So it's a bit like with that, it changes all the time. What suits me at one period of my life doesn't necessarily suit me at another. And the reason I'm saying that is right now I'm probably, taking a lot more of a relaxed approach to it because still in lockdown at the moment with 2 kids, working a lot. So it's kind of what I can do. And, I don't have a lot of time to dedicate, even if the gyms were open, I wouldn't be able to be doing, a full program where I can be, really, really working on my strength, etc. I've been there, I've done that in the past, which was fantastic. So to cut a long story short, right now I'm trying to mix it up a bit. So for a period of time, I probably was just really focusing on just moving, literally just getting out and just walking. That was especially at the beginning of lockdown. That was kind of what I was doing. Whereas now at the minute, I've started to try and add some strength stuff in. But when I say strength stuff, I'm talking just lifting some dumbbells every day, just taking it, literally like I posted this morning, it will be while the kids are having their breakfast, I'll pick up the dumbbells and I'll do some squats, I'll do some overhead presses, just 10, 15 minutes. And then, like I say, trying to do a bit of walking, a bit of running when I can with the kids. So I really haven't got a particular exercise regime. That is the way I'm doing it. In the past, however, back in my days when I was struggling, with food, when I had, disordered relationship with food, I was obsessive. I was going to the gym every single day and I was on that treadmill and I was, literally till I could hardly move anymore, and I was, obsessed with making sure that I was doing it every single day for at least a certain amount of time. Obviously I've moved away from that and I really didn't enjoy it. I was just doing it to try and manage and control my weight. And I've gone through cycles ever since then, from kind of trying to do classes, from trying to do, going to the gym and doing weights on my own. And I must admit that I do probably enjoy doing the weight stuff, doing the resistance stuff more than anything. But right now I just have to make what works work. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's I think that's something that I've been experiencing myself also. And you and any of our listeners who've listened kind of to most of our episodes have heard me make reference to some of my wife's health conditions and those long-term things that we've dealt with that. And those are factors that impact the amount of time that I'm able to give to that kind of thing as well in my own life. And it also impacts the amount of additional energy that I have to devote to those things, because sometimes we feel like we have to be doing a certain kind of physical activity, like, if we're especially if we're in the industry that you and I are in, which is as nutritionists and trainers and those kinds of things, that we should be doing 5 or 6 hard workouts a day, a week, and that kind of thing, because that's just what you do if you want to see any progress and that kind of thing. And so we get in this mindset where we feel like we have to do these things in order to be doing it correctly, and we don't.
All or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And like you pointed out there, that was a good point, that a lot of the exercise that you've done in the past has been for the purpose of managing your weight, and not that you don't enjoy it, but there are these factors that come in.
There were some things I did that I didn't enjoy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was definitely in the boot camp or in the camp of Googling what exercise is going to be best for fat loss. Right. I was definitely went down that rabbit hole. Anybody listening, stop doing that right now.
Yeah. Even if you want to work out with a consistent program and 5 or 6 days a week, and that works for you, stop Googling what's the best exercise to burn belly fat or whatever, because it's just, you're missing the whole point. And there isn't the best one anyway, so so we can get that out of our mind. But
it might be the best one for you.
Yeah.
But there isn't, exactly, because there's so many different nuances within it, aren't there?
Yeah. So I think that's a good point that we can make here, is that it really does depend on kind of what life circumstances you have going on, and what is going to fit well within the context of your current life situation. You're very busy with a lot of different things going on, and right now trying to squeeze in 5 workouts a week. Could you do it? You probably could, but it would burn you out pretty quickly.
The thing is, I probably, it would. And the thing is, because it's not just the being there and doing it. It's all of everything else I would have to juggle, and the impact it would have on my children. Even this morning, like I was trying to do something and one of the kids got really upset and needed my attention. It's like, I can't ignore my kids because I want to do a workout. It's just, but in the past, I've got to admit, Jeff, when I was stuck in that cycle, it would have been like, nobody interrupt mummy while she's doing a workout. Mummy's, and that, like I said, that was impacting on the kind of the emotional skills that my children were then developing, because they need that scaffolding in order to be able to manage their emotions, and I just wasn't providing it because I was too obsessed with my weight, what I look like, how I ate. So now, sorry, but just to say, if I was going to get in 5 proper structured workout sessions a week, it would have an impact, like you said. But having said that, probably what I'm doing right now doesn't equate to that much different anyway, when I think I'm just doing kind of, bit of weights when I can, which is great. So it's a bit of resistance stuff. I'm probably cramming in more reps into that amount of time because I'm more focused, because I only have that short amount of time. How many times when you've got an hour to kill in the gym do you mess about on your phone, or you go do this or you go and do that, and then, like I said, because I only have that, then I've still got the energy and the motivation to then maybe go and do a little run or a walk. Like today I did a bit of weights and then I did a nice long run, and it's actually, I'm quite enjoying that relaxed approach, because it feels like there's not so much pressure, and because there isn't so much pressure, I don't wake up every day thinking, oh, gym today. It's kind of, it's just, but I know when things get a little bit more relaxed, when someone can have my children for a little bit, and I'm back in a routine with things, then probably I will get a little bit more thinking, okay, maybe because I got to admit, I did enjoy going to the gym when I could, and I had time, and and I could dedicate time to a proper plan and stuff like that. I've been there, I've done that. I've had PTs, I've done it all, and I did enjoy it. But like I said, it has to match where you're at any one time in your life, just like your diet does.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really easy. You made some good points there with the fact that a lot of these less structured occasions for physical activity and or movement or however you want to refer to it, because there's a lot of terms that get thrown around now where we're trying to in certain circles we're trying to shift the mindset from just thinking of exercise as like this separate thing apart from just moving around, because in many cases they have a very similar effect. Yes, there are certain benefits to resistance training where you're lifting weights or using bands or doing body weight exercises where you're, those kinds of things. There are certain specific health benefits, benefits to your bone density. There's evidence that shows that those kinds of things are beneficial for that. And so it's certainly worth trying to incorporate those kinds of things. But at the same time, even people who are fixated on the calorie burning aspect, all of these other activities still use energy and they still require energy, and they're beneficial to our overall health. And so some people think, well, I have to exercise to burn calories. And while both of us would say, let's try and get that out of our mind, if that is still stuck in your mind as far as you're thinking in the sense of burning calories, just going for a walk actually uses energy too. And so you don't have to beat your body up in order to burn calories, for example. And it's really interesting that the non-exercise activity in our life actually equates to more than what the exercise activity does when it comes to energy expenditure each day. And so, some people don't even realize that. And so they've even like I said, if you're still stuck in that mindset of activity is for burning calories, exercise isn't necessarily the best way to do that. And when you start to realize that, it's like, oh, so I can just go do something that's not so demanding on my time and that is interfering with my life and my schedule, and still accomplish the same thing, which is to get my body more physically active and in better condition. And
absolutely,
and it's kind of a freeing thing when you realize that. And
you can see results as well without having to have any equipment. And it's finding. I had this conversation just on Tuesday. I started my group program on Tuesday, and we were talking a little bit about activity. And one of the ladies was saying, I used to be, I'd be so intermittent with exercise because I always felt like I needed to do something that was a punishment, something that would help, And she said, but recently I've really discovered how much I like dance. She says, and I absolutely love it. It doesn't feel like exercise. I'm just moving. And this is one thing I often say to my clients. Well, rather than thinking about it as exercise, I know we spoke about this before, think about it as movement, as something that just feels good. And the other thing I wanted to say as well is that, when we are doing something that we enjoy and that feels good, and that, we're not, I'm not saying you should never push yourself, of course, if you want to push yourself and when you've got goals, you've got performance related goals, etc., then that's absolutely great, fantastic. But I think if you are someone who just wants to just, move your body a little bit more, be a bit healthier, feel a bit better, sometimes just doing something like, some light weights or, a little bit of walking or running, actually, when you're doing that, it really, really can help in terms of, your mental health as well, because it gives you time and space to think. Whereas if you're pushing yourself to, do exercise that really, really hurts, that you're not enjoying, all you're going to be doing is thinking, I hate this, it's horrible, like this is really, I'm struggling. So you haven't got the headspace then to actually think things through and, and think about, oh God, I'm feeling really upset today because of X, Y, Z, or I'm feeling really, because you're just masking it over with this kind of almost, punishment that you're trying to put on yourself because of, maybe what you've eaten. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, definitely. And those are great points, because I think that we see it a lot where people, it's something you see in the fitness world all the time, when you're following people on social media who are talking about their own journey. And it's really easy to, when you start to think about these things, you start to notice that in the way that people will talk about it. And so they'll talk about how they had their cheat day, and so now they're getting back at it on hard, and it's subtle little things sometimes where you can just hear it. You can hear it in the way that they're talking, hear it in the words that they're using, where they are using the exercise as a way to undo this bad behavior that they feel like they had engaged in. And so they're trying to undo that rather than just saying, hey, I enjoyed some cheesecake last night, and today I'm going to enjoy doing some physical activity. And it's really easy to get ourselves in that mindset. And some people may say, well, what's the big deal about it? But all of these little things build up and contribute over time, in so many areas of our life, how we think about things, and all of those things, it often determines what we actually do. If you're going around, I've shared different analogies before, but in from a Christian perspective, one of the things that we're told about is that lust is something that is also on the same level as like adultery, because if you start thinking mentally about, if you're married and you're thinking about other women or men or whatever on a regular basis, and you're starting to just fixate on that, it naturally then over time can gradually move you toward physically acting out on it. And that's why it's so important. Yeah. And the same things happen in our life with nutrition and physical activity. When we start to think wrongly about things, it eventually carries us into acting out in such a way where you start to have eating issues, and you start beating yourself up over things. And so it really does contribute to that.
I spoke about this yesterday, and looking at it from the other way. You're talking about how these thoughts, and I was thinking about it from the other way, from backwards. Sorry, I've got a pen in my hand. I was thinking about it from, I call it the, like almost like self-awareness onion. Yeah. So on the surface of it, self-awareness is a bit like an onion, yeah? And you have to peel back the layers to really understand what's going on. And it ties in with what you're saying. Hear me out a minute, because on the surface of it, you've got your emotions, you've got how you feel. And often people aren't even connected there. They don't understand why they're feeling what they're feeling. So you peel back that layer, you're feeling angry, frustrated, guilty, etc. You peel that back that layer and think, okay, why am I feeling like this? Well, I'm feeling like this because I'm feeling frustrated or angry because I didn't go and do my workout. I'm feeling frustrated or angry because I ate a certain food. Yeah. I'm feeling, kind of down and, really lethargic right now because I'm feeling worthless as a person. Okay. So, or like I haven't achieved what I want to achieve. So then once you've kind of understood why you're feeling what you're feeling, you then dig even deeper, okay, and think, okay, why am I feeling guilty for eating a certain food? Okay, because my underlying all of this, my value and belief system is telling me that I need to eat clean all of the time, or my value system or my belief system is telling me that I can only eat the foods I want because when I exercise. So underlying it all, like you said, is that belief system, that value system. And until we start to really dig deep and understand how this is impacting on our emotions, which is then driving our behaviors, we can't then change it, can we? And we need to dig, and we need to think, okay, so, is this actually, what am I judging myself on? I'm judging myself on something unrealistic, something that's superficial, something that doesn't really matter. So I probably need to reframe that and rethink what my underlying value and belief system is right now.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Those underlying values and beliefs are really the determining factor of how we're going to act.
And sometimes they can just be misinformed. And it's not until you start to begin to strip back, because it's the same with me, when I was caught up in the whole, and I know so many people have been there, when I was caught up in the whole, I need to eat a certain way, I've got to eat clean, whatever, my value system at the time was that I had to look a certain way to be accepted. Now, it took some time for me to actually unpick that, that isn't really right. That isn't really how I want to live my life, but it's how I've been living my life because of, so it's about unpicking that, isn't it?
Yeah. Such a good point.
And I want to go back to as well, because I think a couple of really important points to make. And this is coming back to what you were saying about how, when we actually, it's the little stuff that we do every day. It's the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's, it's the exercise, the movement that you're doing beyond planned exercise, let's say, that actually is, has the biggest impact, doesn't it? And we see this all the time, people that are able to maintain weight loss, they or manage their weight, are, that their non-exercise activity thermogenesis is often higher, isn't it? And I think the thing is that when we kill ourselves through exercise, it has a knock-on effect here, doesn't it? Because very often we think, right, we're going to go to the gym every day, we're going to do an hour in the gym, we're going to kill ourselves and use every last morsel of energy that we've got in the gym, because that's the only way I'm going to burn calories, and that's the only way I'm going to make up for that pizza last night. That's 1 hour in 24. The rest of the 23 hours, you're going to be knackered. You're not going to move. You're not even going to smile, because your body's saying, I need energy. I'm going to reserve all of this energy right now. I'm not even going to let you flinch to burn some calories. So people don't tend to see that, they may burn a shed loads of calories in that hour, but then they're probably making up for it and more the rest of the day, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you're just doing some gentle activity, some gentle movement that you enjoy, that's not going to happen, is it?
No, and it is. There is this this balance that you have to find there, because some people think, okay, I'm going to work out twice a day, and I've had people ask me this fairly regularly. Should I add in another workout? I'm working out 3 days a week. Should I add in a fourth or a fifth one? And I said, well, how are you feeling about that? And we'll often unpick that and talk about it and say, okay, well, here are the benefits. Physical activity is great for us. It's beneficial to our body. It helps us get strong. It improves our cardiovascular system. It actually will improve our appetite and our ability to regulate our appetite. And so that's the point I want to make. That's the point I want to make. That's what's really interesting is that physical activity, both non-exercise activity and then kind of what we would classify as formal exercise, both of those are going to be beneficial in helping us to regulate that appetite. So if you're trying to eat more intuitively, it can really be beneficial. And so that's a good reason to prioritize it. But on the other hand, if you add in too much exercise, you can actually have the opposite effect, to where now your body is ravenously hungry, and it increases your appetite, and it can make it difficult then to manage that. And as an example from my personal experience, I love doing deadlifts, heavy deadlifts and heavy squats and those kinds of things where, you push your body to a limit. And I enjoy doing that at times. Lately, I haven't been doing it as much, but there are times when I've gone through phases where I do. And I've talked about being deadlift squat hungry, which for me is I probably am in needing an additional 1,000 to 1,500 calories that day, just because my body is like telling me, go eat, go eat, go eat. And it's based on the way that I pushed it during that workout. I didn't necessarily burn 1,500 calories or 1,000 calories. I know I didn't, but because of the way I pushed myself, my body is craving that additional energy for whatever reason. And so we have to be careful of that too, that we don't just say, well, I just need to do more energy, more physical activity is going to be better. There is a balance where you can go and push yourself over the limit, to where now you're kind of undoing what it is that you're trying to do, which is help better manage your appetite and kind of find a good way that is eating that's right for you. And so you can undo that by pushing yourself too hard.
You can also, as well, if you are in the mindset that if you exercise, you're allowed to eat more.
Right.
That can also really be really counterproductive, because like you've said there, exercise, movement, activity, it does actually help us to regulate our appetites. It, usually, obviously, like you said, over time it can have a knock-on effect or whatever. But usually what tends to happen is that when we do some exercise, for a lot of people anyway, I don't know about you, but immediately after the exercise or whatever, it can actually blunt your appetite, can't it?
It does.
It really, really does help, in terms of what you said before is that exercise can help with your weight regulation system. But the thing is, and so if you're an intuitive eater, exercise isn't necessarily, movement activity, depending how far you push yourself. Like you're talking about, kind of really, really pushing yourself with strength training and stuff. And so different things will have a different effect. But I think the thing is if you are an intuitive eater, i.e. you're listening to your internal cues as to when you need to eat. So when you're full, when you're hungry, etc. Exercising is probably going to have the opposite effect. It's probably going to actually help you to manage those better. Yeah. Does that make, whereas I nearly said, does that make sense? Whereas if you are telling yourself that if you exercise, you can eat more, that's an external rule.
Yeah.
That's an external way of approaching eating. So the chances are then you're going to go, right, okay, I've exercised, so I can allow myself to eat this bit more now. So this is why people go, oh, well, I'm exercising and I'm not losing any weight. Well, probably if you are in tune with your body and you're listening to your body, then, you're more likely to at least manage your weight through exercise than if you're not.
Yeah. And that's a good point. So much of intuitive eating is being aware of how your body is feeling and making sure that you're attending to the needs of your body and based on what it's telling you. And but with that, we can also incorporate what we understand from nutrition science into that as well. And so, like for me, I don't count calories or anything, and I eat basically intuitively. If I'm hungry, I eat, and if I'm not, I don't. But I also understand some of the nutrition science, and so I am able to, and I use that with clients also. I teach them about that. But I understand that when I take some protein prior to my workout and have some protein right after it, that I feel better. My recovery is better the next day, and I understand and there is science that explains why that's the case. Yeah. I also understand that helps my appetite, and so we don't have to just go completely off of feel. We can incorporate some of these scientific principles also into this intuitive eating process to better understand how these things work, so that we can say, oh, well, that's why when I skip my protein shake in the morning, or that's why when I normally eat a banana and a protein shake before I work out, and I didn't today, that I was feeling lightheaded and stuff during my workout time. So now you can just be a bit more mindful of making sure that you're feeding your body properly at those different times. And so I guess my point is that there's lots of ways that we can do this. So eating intuitively doesn't mean that we're just kind of, I had a conversation about this earlier in the week with somebody who just could not fathom the concept that you don't have to count calories and track macros in order to build muscle. Yeah. And it was even somewhat of a subtle, he almost had made kind of a subtle, implying it subtly that it was unconscionable that I would advise clients not to track their macros if they're trying to build. He was nice about it. We were having a very civil conversation, but just kind of he was kind of could not fathom the concept of a trainer who would actually not have his clients count macros and track protein intake. And so I was trying to help illustrate, because at one point it even went so far as, how do you so what, you just eat whatever you want, and that's kind of a misunderstanding of what intuitive eating is. So it's again, I think I'm kind of rambling here, but my point is that you can incorporate this knowledge into understanding yourself and how your body is responding and why it is, and then you can prioritize those things too. And so
yeah, definitely, absolutely. Yeah. And it is about kind of, and I think this is the thing, and this is potentially where some people do misunderstand intuitive eating, is that it is about listening to your body. Absolutely. And it is about allowing yourself unconditional permission to eat the foods that you want, and as much of the foods that you want. But I think there is, it's also about integrating what we know about good nutrition, integrating the scientific principles that we know. I mean, because at the end of the day, we know that a diet that is rich in nutrient dense whole foods is going to support our health best. But it's about integrating that alongside what feels good for you, alongside what works for you, alongside your lifestyle. And I think what I find with a lot of the clients that I work with, though, in all honesty, is that you almost have to put the what secondary initially,
Yes.
because people have completely lost touch with the how.
Hmm.
And it's not until, and this is why I did a post about this recently, you know, about saying I'm not anti anybody dieting. I'm not. But you shouldn't, if you have got an unhealthy relationship with food, you know, then you need to work on that first. If you're not listening to your internal body cues, if you're dissatisfied with your body right now, then, you know, and this was something that you were saying earlier. You mentioned about, what were you talking about? Exercising, and about how you were saying, there was something you were saying earlier, and you were saying about how it's not bad as of in itself to
Right.
feel that, you know, you've got to exercise a certain way or do things, you know, because somebody's told you that that's the way it is, or, you know. But the problem is then that it will create body dissatisfaction, because you're
Right.
never going to be happy, you know, when you're happy in your own body, regardless. This was it about this was, you said something earlier about how, you know, you've got to over exercise the day after you've eaten
Oh,
something.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, and rather than just listening to your body and just doing something, because the thing is that if you listen to your body, if you're trusting your body and you're at peace with your body, if you overeat one day, which you will, we all do, you know, if you overeat one day, your body the next day will naturally want you to move a bit more. It will ramp up your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You'll probably have more energy. You'll be bouncing around. You'll feel like you want to do the hoovering, you know, because that's your body's way of saying you had too many calories yesterday, so we need to regulate things.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is then when we think to ourselves, we had too much yesterday, so we need to exercise, we need to do X, Y, Z. And so we push ourselves, or that can have the opposite effect. I had one client who said that she would eat something, she'd have something like fish or chips or something like that. And then the next day she'd feel she'd feel the need to exercise so badly that it just used to actually paralyze her. So she'd end up just slobbing about and feeling horrible for it. But she said once after doing some work with me, she said, I've noticed something, Becky. She said, I had fish and chips yesterday. It was fine. You know, I probably ate more than I needed to, not quite there at knowing when enough is enough. She said, but one thing I noticed was rather than the next day feeling sorry for myself and feeling sluggish, she goes, I went for a massive walk. She says, what's going on there? And I was like, because that's what your body will do. When you let your body do its job and you stop trying to apply pressure and control, it will naturally do what it needs to do to manage your weight. And I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready, when I was in the shower this morning, actually, and it was nothing to do with this, actually. I think nothing to do with our chat, but I was just thinking to myself, you know what? The happiest place a person will ever be is where, you know, where their weight is meant, you know, when they allow their weight to be where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You accept that your set point is predetermined, and, you know, and that's where your body will happily sit, you know, without you having to apply rules and regulations. That's the happiest place you'll be. And that's, you know, the happiest place you'll be will definitely not be laying on the sofa all day eating crisps and chocolate. That's not the happiest place you'll be.
Yeah.
But once you accept your body, all of that won't happen so much, because you are respecting your body, and you know that sitting on the sofa all day is not good for you. You know that eating crisps all day is not good for you. So when you're respecting your body, you're not going to go from one extreme to the other. You're going to find a happy medium. And that happy medium means moving. That happy medium means eating well. It means sleeping well. But it also means allowing yourself to enjoy foods, you know, that are play foods.
Yeah. Those are just such good points, and you know, it really is a common issue that we just see so often. This pressure, not only with how we eat, or, you know, pressure with what we eat and that kind of thing, but also pressure about what physically active means, you know, being fit means, and it often is this: you have to do certain types of exercise or that kind of thing in order to be doing what's the right thing. And there's just so many different ways. I guess our point is here, there's so many different ways that you can be physically active, physically fit, get those benefits from physical activity, that without having to push yourself to do these formal kinds of exercises. And you know, one of the things that, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is that, you know, if you do want to get stronger, healthier, and fitter, then the best thing you can do is to find activity, find movement that feels good to you, because it means that you're going to be more consistent with it. It means you're not going to be on and off. It means that I remember at one point, but I remember at one point when I was like really into the gym and into my weights and stuff. But I think, to the point where I wasn't really enjoying it. I was forcing myself to go because, I was like, right, I'm going to get this 6-pack. I'm going to do it. But, did it last? Did it hate? I mean, yeah, I got results. I did get results because I probably was tracking my protein and my macros and what have you, but it didn't last, because I wasn't enjoying it. And, as soon as I kind of felt like, oh yeah, I'm getting some results, I kind of was like, oh, sod that. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just going to, so it's, but, and maybe if I'd have been a little bit more relaxed about it, maybe if I hadn't have been like now, if I had the time now to do what I was doing then, but a bit more relaxed, not putting so much pressure on myself, not, then maybe, I would have continued with it. Who knows? Let's see what happens when the kids grow up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the important things in the way that I like to think of it is that we are free to move our body as much as we want. We're free to do as much exercise as we want, but we're also free to choose not to do those things also, and that's what we need to give ourselves that permission to eat what we want to eat and eat the amount that is right for us, but also the same with physical activity, to move the amount that's right for us. For some people who don't have any underlying medical conditions, we may have the ability to move a lot more throughout the day, and that actually makes us feel better. Other people, there are people who have conditions like lupus, fibromyalgia, MS, other conditions like this, and my wife has lupus, so I see this on a daily basis. But they have, and anybody who's kind of curious about this concept, you might look up something, and we won't talk about it in depth here, but it's called spoon theory, and it's the idea where you people with these chronic medical conditions have just a certain amount of energy in their body that they can use up each day, and because of those underlying medical conditions, any kind of additional physical activity takes from that tank. And so they have to balance out the amount of energy that they expend for work and for additional physical activity, even non-exercise activity, so that they still have the energy to do the other things that are important in their life, like caring for their family or their children, or a special event that's coming up, and they have to portion this out. They have to really, really listen to their body carefully. And so if you're somebody who has one of these kinds of conditions, it's really important that you don't feel pressure that you have to do more physical activity in order to be healthy. You need to do the right amount for you, given your body's unique makeup and unique situation where it is. Physical activity is very beneficial for people that have these different kinds of conditions, but too much has the exact opposite effect. And so it just kind of emphasizes why it's so important that we are listening to our body, and that we're not beating ourselves up if we're not doing as much as another person.
Yeah. I want another thing I want to say before we do kind of wrap it up is that, I want to make the point that it's absolutely, sometimes having a goal, sometimes having a performance related goal, can be really motivating. I'm not saying
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just saying, and I know a lot of people that do, and a lot of people that are, have goals around, at one point again, I've got back into my running a little bit, only a little bit, because I kind of, but right now it's just what feels good, and I'm not putting any pressure on myself. But at one point I was definitely trying to improve my time. I wanted to do, never a marathon, my goodness, only like a 10K, but I had a goal to improve my time. However, having said that, when I put too much pressure on myself for that, I burnt myself out again, so I think, but having a goal is important sometimes. And having, maybe you're wanting to improve your strengths, you want to improve your best, you want to improve, how much you can lift, you want to improve your 1 rep max, you want to improve whatever. And I'm not saying that that's not important. I just think, just don't lose sight, I guess, of what you're doing it for. Is all I'm saying. And,
Yeah, that's a good point. I have a young client who has a goal of doing a regular push-up, and it's a fantastic goal. And so that's a goal that this person came up with on their own. It's not pressure. Nobody's telling them you need to learn to do push-ups. that's a goal that they have for themselves. And so I've put together a plan of action, and he's going through that process of doing that structured plan. So certainly there is a time and a place for a structured workout and training plan, if that's what you have a goal for yourself, and as long as that it's something you want to do, that you're not beating yourself up over it. And so we put together a nice little plan of action, and I'm able to see him progressing through this, and it's motivational, and it's exciting to have these non-scale related goals that you can achieve. And sometimes in fact, kind of coming back full circle, having a structured plan of thinking on the mindset of training and working out and that kind of thing can also be extremely beneficial for some people. It can help with discipline, because discipline is an important part. It can help with setting.
I think, people seem to think, oh, well, when you're eating or listening to your body, discipline doesn't matter. No, discipline does matter. In fact, I wrote about this not long ago. Self-care, discipline is an important part of self-care.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing sometimes people miss when we talk about listening to your body and trusting your body,
Exactly.
Discipline is a big part of that. So
I think what happens is we can take that discipline to say, I have to force myself to do this thing that I hate. And if I don't do this thing that either I hate or I'm just not really thrilled about, and we think, well, I just need to be more disciplined. And when in fact, discipline can actually be more of like, I am disciplined in taking care of my body. I'm disciplined in listening to my body. I'm disciplined in doing the things that are appropriate for me right now. And so it's easy to take discipline and shift it to where we are forcing ourselves, like almost like a drill sergeant in the military, where you're just going to do, you need to do it, suck it up and just do it, versus being disciplined in caring for ourselves. And it's really easy to cross those lines and get that twisted around and kind of lose perspective on that.
Discipline is very different to willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, and just on the note of what you said then, because I've got a client after this, and no, my point is that we're actually working on a couple of these things. He a couple of weeks ago, it was a little bit like, kind of, I think my goals are changing. I'm not sure what, so it's like, he said, so we really dug deep, and I was like, why are you doing this? What? And he's like, well, actually, I really want to get out cycling again. I really want to improve my performance on my bike, etc. That's a goal for me. That's a motivator for me.
Yeah.
But now it's like, but I'm getting frustrated that I can't get a structure in place to help me support. So that's what we're going to be doing this afternoon. We're going to be looking at what structure he needs to put in place in order to achieve that goal. Because the thing is, it's all well and good having this goal. It's all well and good. Like I used to have, like what you mentioned about your client. At one point, one of my goals was to be able to do pull-ups. But if I was just focusing too heavily, when I was just focusing too heavily just on the pull-up, just like my client focusing too heavily just on the cycling, it felt almost impossible. It was like, okay, so what structure, what plan can I put in place to slowly get me there step by step now? And it's exactly the same when it comes to your nutrition. Okay. You want to improve your relationship with food. You want to feel less stressed. You want to feel less anxious. You want to stop thinking about food all of the time. Fantastic. Let's start here. We've got these steps we need to go through. Let's put a plan in place to work through those. So it's about, yes, you need your overarching goal. Then you need to break it down, don't you, into manageable chunks.
Yeah. And that those are the things that help with that motivation that a lot of us are trying to seek to continue with the process, is that when we have those little goals that we can achieve at a step by step and say, hey, I just realized that I'm drinking much more water now. I just realized that I have more energy on the weekends. When I went out and played with my kids at the park, I wasn't winded this time. And so little goals like that, or specific goals through that training process, if you're trying to prepare for something, think of, like, you've heard of couch to 5K, where it's like this process of getting literally from sedentary to running a 5K. And there's these little steps involved along the way that kind of help progress you there. And so that's also something that can be beneficial in the physical activity process, is finding ways to do that in a stepwise approach, instead of feeling like you have to go all in.
And enjoying the process.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing my clients enjoy the process. And it's like you said, one of my clients last night just went, just realized I'm not eating half as much chocolate now as when we started working together, Rebecca. And it's like, yeah, you see, the progress is subtle, but it's there,
Yeah.
So, and
yeah, there's this wonderful song, and this is probably a good way that we could wrap up this episode. Is there's this really cool song, and just the name of the title of the song says so much, and it's called "Joy in the Journey." And I think that that's something that we should really be seeking to do.
I did a post about this last week, and I called it. I think I called it "The Joys in the Journey." Or
okay, cool.
Yeah, I did actually. It wasn't on the back of that song, but interesting.
Yeah. But I've always loved that. That just it pops in my head on a regular basis that try and find joy in this journey to improving your health and wellness and that kind of thing, because that's going to be the thing that's going to ultimately sustain you and make it a truly life-changing thing, rather than this drudge that it often does become for many people. So, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us for this great episode, and we look forward to talking with you all again soon.